we go. This is a very big screen. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ingram. I'm the founder of Women of Web3, which I've been running for the last couple of years, which I guess actually is a lifetime in Web3. So I'm going to be talking to you about why I think there's this massive opportunity to be a truly democratized internet that Web3 has promised everybody, because we are at this really fundamental moment where we are rebuilding the internet from scratch, rebuilding it in the image that we would like to see it. And there's this promise, obviously, of democratizing the power on the internet and giving people access to their own data, putting people in charge. So decentralizing power away from the biggest bodies and putting it in the hands, in theory, of the people. But I think there's actually still a lot to be desired here. There's quite a big piece missing in the pie, which is the lack of women in this space. I know it's something that gets talked about. It's something that you see at conferences, like any tech conference that you go to, you sort of see fewer women in the room than men, and you see fewer women interacting with Web3 technology, certainly, and you definitely see it at a leadership level. 9 out of 10 Web3 startups have no female founders whatsoever, and so we're risking what was supposed to be a democratized internet for everybody is actually this very lopsided view of the world. And at the moment, the current internet, Web 2, is also being built in mainly one image as well. And I think there's a huge opportunity to change that, because we're going to risk running into a dystopia otherwise. Web 3 is supposed to be this quite utopian vision. If we're talking about we're harking back to 90s internet, really, of this kind of open source, giving it to everybody, giving people ownership, as NFTs and crypto have shown us, that we can all have a piece of the pie. But if we're not representing the views of women, if we're not building products with women in mind, I genuinely think we do risk running into this dystopia. I think women really risk being left behind in this next major iteration of the internet. But it's not necessarily too late to change that. Having said that, AI is fueling everything, and if we don't start being more active in how we shape what comes next, AI is going to sort of push us too fast and too far. I think of generative AI as being like caffeine, which is, yes, it can help you do things faster, but sometimes it helps you do stupid things faster. At least that's, for me, with my morning coffee, sometimes it's giving us the energy to do the wrong things. And we do actually need to take a moment to see, do we want to be scaling this thing? Because AI is being fed biased data. Because humans are biased, we can't escape that fact. Whether we like it or not, humans are biased. And so that AI is eating bias for breakfast. That's what we're feeding it with. It's eating bias for breakfast. And so this does risk being really problematic, because if you're scaling a business using biased data, you are scaling that bias as well. And here's why I think it matters. So for me, this is one of the most uncomfortable parts, but also the most exciting parts. The startup businesses being built today are going to be the unicorn businesses of tomorrow. They're going to be the Metas and Twitters. I can't say X, I'm sorry. The Twitters of the world. So this is this amazing, amazing opportunity in terms of who's going to be running the businesses of the future, because tech is so synonymous in our society with big business. They're kind of inescapably intertwined. And so that's another sort of that's a really urgent reason why you need women represented in this. And there is a much more positive opportunity here. So rather than sort of me focusing on the negatives, there is this amazing opportunity. If you put more women in leadership up the top, you'll start attracting more female consumers, and also more female leaders attract more female candidates applying to work in your companies. And it becomes this virtuous cycle or virtuous circle where the more women you bring in, the better it gets. Because we've also seen that multiple studies show that more women at the top brings more profitability. So there is actually a sort of good commercial reason for doing this. But as I say, it can be this amazing cycle of, if you start putting women in leadership at the top, they will build with everybody in mind. They'll build with women in mind. And that starts opening things up commercially. So if we don't do this, we really are leaving money on the table. If you don't build products with women in mind, as well as men in mind, you're leaving money on the table. So for me, part of my own passion is I really care about having diversity in this space. I really care about women feeling included, or everybody of every aspect of identity being represented and included. But even if you set aside our emotions about this, or any kind of moral obligation to do this, there is this massive commercial opportunity. There are diversity dollars to be made, seriously. Think about how many men own crypto versus women owning crypto, and therefore what the biggest growth category might be. There is such a big opportunity to speak to more women, and so by bringing more women working in this space, that's where you can start achieving it. So this is where it's going to turn into like a to-do list, so I want to see notebooks coming out for this part. But how do we bring more female leaders into this space to make this happen? I think there's a big job to be done on de-risking careers in Web3. Crypto has such a... It does have this really negative reputation outside of the bubble of people in this room, people in our wider sphere. Crypto is a dirty word. Web3 is a dirty word. And so we need to be de-risking careers in this space because women are a little bit more risk averse, whether that's by nature or by nurture. Are we trained to be risk averse? Regardless of why we're taking fewer risks, we are taking fewer risks, and so we need to be given a more compelling reason to come into this space and start working in it full time. So we need to be getting away from the pure number go up sides of crypto and tokens, because women and people more broadly need to see the longevity of this space. Otherwise, it's a massive turn-off if they can't see the long-term possibility of how they could go and build their career, build products that have a sort of positive impact on the world. If they see things as purely number go up, that's a lot less compelling as a reason to get into it. Secondly, making it work for parents. And so obviously being a woman is not synonymous with being a parent, but the two things can't go hand in hand when you talk about long-termism and careers in Web3 or careers generally. Again, there's a job to be done on making it work for parents, because I think crypto especially does, well, Web3 generally does have an always-on culture. We are decentralized groups of people working from anywhere and everywhere. There's this amazing flexibility to some extent, but there's definitely an always-on culture as well. And I see that as being incompatible with parenting, because if crypto never sleeps, well, I know there's the phrase sleeping like a baby, but that's a total misnomer. So it's, at the moment, those things I see as fundamentally incompatible. So you have to be building a company culture that works for everybody, because if you start making it work for women, making it work for mums, for parents, that does start working for everybody. For me, there isn't a downside of building a culture that people are proud to be part of. And thirdly, the more you do to spotlight female talent, the better. You will start attracting more women, more female candidates. I hear every day from recruiters that they struggle to get, they'll be getting anywhere from sort of 1% to 5% female applicants for working in their, whether it's crypto exchanges, anything blockchain-based. There's so few women applying. So I do recognize that it's hard. It's not, which is why I'm trying to give you the here's how to actually make it happen. But if you spotlight female talent, women can start seeing themselves represented in who works at your company, and especially if it's at leadership level, they can start to see, okay, that could be a route for me. It's the whole principle, if you can see it, you can be it. And so you should be if you've got women at any level of your business, you should be putting them forward for awards, putting them forward for speaking opportunities. Anything you can do to spotlight that talent will attract more women to your business, and then they will also be attracting more female consumers as a result. And so, following on from that, to bring more female consumers more generally, breaking down jargon is so needed, and it's something that I really get on my high horse about why we need to break down jargon. But we really do have a tendency in our little Web3 bubble to use all these acronyms that people outside of our bubble don't understand. People don't know what DAOs are, they don't know, what when Lambo means, or anything to do with kind of, tokens, NFT, crypto. It can be a massive turn-off. And certainly, we're hearing from women that they find it overwhelming. And so, whatever you can do to start breaking down the jargon and start talking in terms of use cases. What is the actual value of what your product brings? Not just using other Web3 terms to define that. Like, what actual benefit is there in people's lives? Because otherwise, they're not going to adopt it. Secondly, question the default. What assumptions are you making about your customer? Because actually, a lot of the time, without meaning to, we are building products for other men. So whatever you can do to kind of take yourself outside of yourself and really get into who we're building for, and yeah, should it be for everybody? I personally feel that technology should be in the hands of everybody. If we're talking about this internet that could benefit everybody, then surely we should really be bringing everybody on that journey. And finally, as I say, it's this virtuous circle, virtuous cycle. If you bring more female leaders in, that will start having a trickle-down effect on bringing in more female consumers and more diversity dollars for you guys as well, which is amazing. Because it's time to build a more equitable internet. Thank you.